Hello, my name is Hannah Persick, and I am a senior at North High. This past year, I have gotten the privilege of being an Innovator Fellow. Innovator Fellow is a program that allows select juniors and seniors to create a project they're passionate about. And my passion is for foster care. I am a former foster kid. I was in the foster care system for 3 years, from the ages 6 months old to 3.5 years old. I was then adopted into a great and loving family. In this video, we will be covering fostering, respite care, donating, volunteering, and CASA. What I honestly hope you take away from this video is that anybody has the capability of doing something, and that looks different for everyone. But taking the time, dipping your toes in, and seeing how you can help, I think that's when we're going to create real change. I really hope this inspires you to take the next step.
My name is Christy Paul. I am a social worker, and I currently work as the foster care coordinator for the Sheboygan County Health and Human Services Department. My family provided respite care for foster families through that same agency for about 13 years prior to my employment there. The reason that we decided to get involved in respite care is because I had been a social worker in the child welfare system at that time for about 5 years, and there was something missing. I felt like being a respite provider would provide more fulfillment. It was also a way to get my entire family involved in meeting new kids, learning about other experiences, and just showing my young children at the time how you can help others and be a good human being. Respite care in Sheboygan County is offered to all of our licensed foster parents. It is just a break from providing care to children that have been placed in that home. Some families do have connections, natural supports, informal supports that they can use for child care and taking that break, but not all families do. So there is a formal respite program to help and fill in those gaps possibly for families, and then it is a benefit to providing foster care is that every foster family gets 2 days of respite each month that they can utilize that month, they can bank and use later in the year, throughout the year, if their self-care looks more like taking a week off or doesn't quite fit that 2 days per month plan. To become a respite provider in Sheboygan County, one could contact the Health and Human Services Department. The Certified Respite Program is something that requires an application. There's also a background check that's conducted. There are letters of reference that are requested, and then once all of that information comes back and looks good, there's a home visit that is completed as well, just to get familiar with the family, do a safety check of the home, let them know what respite is, talk about what that will look like for the parents and their family, and then we go from there. Respite care is very important because it can be that lifeline for our foster families who are often dealing with some pretty challenging behaviors, busy schedules, visitation, lots of big tasks that foster parents are asked to do. So when they know that they have that little bit of a break that they can look forward to, then that might be what keeps them going and keeps them strong and healthy so that they continue to be a really great parent, relaxed parent, and good provider for kids who really need them.
My name is Mary Ann Blust. I am the founder and the executive director of Kinderheart Families. I founded Kinderheart Families because my husband and I fostered 3 children and then fully adopted them as well. And when I was done with the fostering and the adoption, in my heart, I wasn't done through the process yet. There still felt like there was a hole inside of me. And we had talked about other avenues, because we could have continued to foster, we could have done Respite Care, but that wasn't right for our family. So I started trying to figure out how I could still help the community, and that's how Kinderheart Families came to be. I kind of went through like what we needed when we were foster parents, the support that we needed, the items that we needed, and yeah, that's how Kinderheart Families, it came totally out of what the needs were for when we were fostering. Kinderheart Families provides a couple different avenues to help foster families. We have welcome bags that go out to children when they're first placed in care, or hopefully within a couple days of them first going into care. We also have busy bags that go to our local police department, and that helps when a child is first taken out of their home, that if they're having to wait for a family to show up, or maybe social services to show up, the police officers can give them these bags, and they're filled with tons of items that these children can use to try to keep them kind of a little occupied. And then we also have birthday bags that go out to our children for birthdays. But then we also have our foster boutique that is open 4 days a week. The families can come in, whether it's an emergency need or just, they went through all their pants this week, which happens all the time. Families can come in 4 days a week and get whatever they need, whatever we have in stock. And then we also do 4 giving events a year. Our number one need is volunteers. We always need help. It takes hours to put one of these giving events together, whether it's, inventorying the stuff that comes in, getting the items prepped to go out. The day before is when we set up our events, and that's putting the stuff out on the floor. And it's always, broken down by categories. And then the day of our events, we always need help. We have people who work the floor for us, helping the families get the items that they need. We have families check out families so that, help them bag up the stuff, and we keep an inventory count of what goes in and what comes out. So we always need help with that, and we always try to provide some kind of meal, so always need help with food for the families as well. And then donations are our livelihood. Everything that comes in from the outside community goes straight out to these kids. So we take brand new items, especially for Christmas, but we also take gently used items for year-round items. The boutique is open 4 days a week, and we accept donations on those days that we're open. Foster children come from, hard times, and these families just want to make it better and provide the love and support that these kids need. And, it helps to get that little bit of backbone for you to help you do that. I love Kinderheart Families, and I want everybody to see what the potential is for these kids. And it's not just giving them Christmas presents. It's, giving them something that they haven't had before. Depending on their circumstances, maybe they didn't have Christmas presents. They didn't have a family atmosphere to know what holiday traditions can be. They may not, simple for us is socks and underwear. They may not have gotten new ones of those. But it grows from there. It's creating a family for all of our foster families, that they realize that they're not alone in the process. It's a huge journey and a huge responsibility for them to take on as foster families, and we want them to know that they have someone behind them, whether through the good or the bad. We're there to support them.
My name is Marcella Blom-Willis. I am a Sheboygan County foster parent since 2003, so going on 18 years, or just having accomplished 18 years of being a county foster parent. Our family has decided to foster the harder to place children. When we started our family, there was a lot of passion and heart in realization that family disruptions have happened disproportionately to minority families, and wondering how we can help support that. It is hard to know how fostering has changed our house and our family, because again, we've been doing this so long, but it has changed in just being more flexible and open to some chaos, and you never know what you're going to get. but it has made the children in our family, as well as the adults, just more aware of what's going on within our community. And when you see certain struggles or certain behaviors, either the kids and what they see in their classmates or us in the community at large, we just know that there's a bigger picture going on here in the local landscape. The foster parent to child relationship is one of the most challenging and rewarding things I have ever experienced. And I wish I knew when I started fostering what I've grown to know now. Because there's a certain, we always are charged with supporting reunification between the children and their birth parents. And that's a really hard balance of not getting too attached, and you always want to protect your heart. And you always know that you're working towards them reunifying with their birth parents. So there's sometimes a boundary that you really want to hold in support of that reunification. As I've grown as a foster parent, I've realized that sometimes it's important to just be all in and put all of your love into them, regardless of the outcome. And that's just a really hard, vulnerable place to be, because there isn't a single foster child in our house that's come into our house, or an adopted child, that ultimately would have us be first choice. All of these children are grieving the loss of their birth parents in some way, regardless of the circumstances. We all have come to be a family, but it's this interesting dynamic of just nurturing a sense of family, regardless of what that parent-child relationship is like. And for us as parents, taking on that pain and that grief and being okay with that, and knowing that given time and consistency, it'll be there, but it's important to give all of yourself and all of your love to this child, rather than holding them at a distance when they're really hurting as well. My favorite part of fostering is again, I love my unique, crazy, big family. My parents always tease me, because I always said when I grow up, I don't want to have any kids. And now I have a huge household, and I would not change it for the world. So the fact that I can have a number of kids in my family, biological, adopted, foster children, and they all bring such unique humor, unique brilliance, unique challenges to the table, I will never be bored. I could never be a helicopter parent, because there's so much to do in a variety of ways. So I love finding ways to connect individually with these very unique human beings, and I love it. It's such an important work, and it's not to be taken lightly. Carl and I talked through all of the billboards that you'll see, and they're very heartwarming, and they'll tug at your heart, but this has to be something that you do, that you're in for the long haul. It is not all warm fuzzies. It is a big commitment. It is a lot of change. You're not in it for the gratitude, but you're in it to take a load of grief and a load of hurt from a child and taking that on yourself. And there's probably nothing more gratifying or important that we can do to help both the children in foster care and the birth families, is just taking on a little bit of that heaviness. I would highly recommend it, though, if you're up for a good challenge.
Hi, I'm Jamie Martin Spalding, and I am the program director at Dland Receiving Home. I've been with Dland since 2008, and I've been acting as the program director since 2017. So I've been there for about 14 years. The Dland Receiving Home is a receiving home here in Sheboygan. We opened our doors in 1970. We are licensed as a group home through the State of Wisconsin Department of Children and Families, but we operate a little differently than a group home.
And by that I mean we take kids 3 through 17, boys and girls, whereas traditionally group homes are 13 years old and up. The reason that our board has always felt passionately about doing it that way, and going to the state and going that extra mile to get permission to do so, is to keep sibling groups together. So our purpose at Dland is to provide temporary, emergency, or interim shelter for those kids. It looks like a home. It looks like, the home you grew up in. I mean, that's what it looks like to me anyway. We have, a living room and a kitchen and, bedrooms and a rec room. It looks like a home. That's how I would describe it. That's our goal always, is to make it feel as much like a warm and comforting and welcoming home as we can. We also try to have fun. We try to make it a good experience for the kids. We will celebrate birthdays, and we'll, celebrate achievements and go to movies and go out to eat and, go to the park. A big thing now that the kids love to do is go swimming, and so, we do that. But we try to make it a loving environment. We try to make the kids feel that, we wouldn't do this job if we didn't care about them. So we try to make it a loving and caring environment. I think Dland Receiving Home is important for this community because the kids that are from this community should be able to stay in this community. And without Dland, that might not be a possibility. And kids should be able to be surrounded by as many people that love them as they can, and keeping them in their community, in their schools, in their, near their family and friends. That's the only way for them to succeed, in my opinion. We see a lot of support for the home through the community. Every year, our house coordinator, Dawn, sends out a holiday letter to a lot of area businesses and community members, and we just see the amount of support that we receive back as far as, monetary donations and items for the kids and gift cards to help with, outings for the residents and things, is just always overwhelming. And we accept donations at any time. I would encourage anybody to email us at any time and ask if we have any specific needs. Our email is kids@dlandky.com. Also, again, monetary donations are always welcome, of course. We're a nonprofit organization. And like I had mentioned, gift cards, we use those a lot for outings and the fun activities for the kids.
My name is Julie Ribley, and I am the Executive Director of CASA v. Central Wisconsin. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. CASA is part of a national organization. It actually started in the 1970s in Seattle, Washington. So the judge was looking at what we call in Wisconsin CHIPS cases, so children that have been found to have been abused or neglected by a parent or caregiver that are under protective order. And in Seattle, Washington, these children were coming in front of the judge about every 6 months, which is typical for here in Wisconsin for us today. And the judge felt like he didn't have enough information about the children. So what he did was he started the CASA program. He reached out to the community members to say, could you advocate for this child that's in need of protection and services? And what I like about that is because that's exactly why we still need the CASA program in Wisconsin today. We train, recruit, supervise lay people in the community. We ask that they are 21 years of age or older. We ask that they're able to give at least a 1-year commitment. And then they go through training that is by state statute regarding children that have been abused or neglected. The 30-hour training. Once they complete the training, they are sworn in by a judge. CASA is seen as a friend of the court. They are sworn in by the judge to advocate for a child's best interest that's under, again, what we call a CHIPS order, Child in Need of Protection and Services. Our advocates meet with the child 1 hour for every week. They form a relationship with them. They get to know them. They talk to everyone else that's involved in that child's life, so mom and dad or foster parents, social workers, the attorney, the guardian ad litem that's assigned to that child, health professionals, anyone that may have information regarding that child. They get to know the child, they gather all that information, and they submit a written report to the judge, advocating for the child's best interest, making sure the child's safe, and advocating for any unmet needs that child may have. And then once they are trained and they are assigned the case, again, it's a little bit more hours on the front end because you're trying to find out who's who on the case, so who everyone is and being able to talk to everyone. Once you do that, the average is anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a month on the case. The reason I am passionate about CASA program is because I believe that every child is one adult away from a success story. And sometimes I think that sounds cliche, but it really is true. Children that are involved in the CASA program have multiple adverse childhood experiences. So they have been separated from mom and dad, they've been abused and or neglected. They typically come from a home that has a mental health component or a domestic violence component or a parent that's incarcerated. So by the time the CASA program and the CASA advocate becomes involved with that child already has multiple adverse childhood experiences. There's not anything that we can do to take those adverse childhood experiences away. But what we can do is increase that child's resilience. And resilience is created, is enhanced, is grown by forming positive, healthy adult-child relationships. And the great thing about resilience is that it trumps adversity and that it can be grown at any age. So whether you're 4 or 44 or 84, you can grow your resilience. And that's what our CASA advocates do. We cannot change their past, but we can change their story going forward. And we do that by increasing that resiliency, enhancing their protective factors, and advocating for them.
My name is Corey Salkert, and we began our foster adoption journey in 2012, so about 10 years ago. I have been and still am in some capacity a bereavement specialist for families when they have a child that dies. And I had a real heart for families that had a pregnancy that the outcome was not going to be what they wanted, that the child might have a fatal fetal anomaly or life-limiting condition. And I knew that there were some that felt as though that was just way more than what they could handle. Once the baby was born, they didn't feel equipped to continue walking that journey until that life came to a close earlier than a natural lifetime. And I had quite the desire to be able to come alongside a family when that would happen and possibly, with my nursing expertise, be able to provide the care that that child needed. I had gotten pretty close to dying myself, and my husband had not been enthusiastic about bringing a child home that was going to die. I was already doing that as a job, and he said, I'm really not interested in bringing this home and dealing with it 24/7. It's one thing for you to do this at work with your bereavement program, but I don't want to do this at home. And if both parents aren't on board, you have good things to fight about already, and this is not something that you should have. You need to have a cohesive opinion that this is going to be a good thing. And so I didn't really press it with Mark. And then as close to death as I had gotten myself, when I had received treatment that did work, and I came back from that, we got a call in August of 2012 that there was a baby that they did not know how long she was going to live. She was 2 weeks old and was born without most of her brain, and would we take her in? And I asked my husband, and he said, absolutely. When is she coming? And so he had made the shift from caring for a dying child was worst case scenario to having that child die with no one, without a name, without a family. That was the worst case scenario. And so it changed the dynamic in our home. So you would think that bringing home a baby with a terminal diagnosis would be such a downer, that everybody would be moping around and maybe just sad, long faces and whatnot. But we knew that our daughter, Emmeline is what we ended up naming her, wasn't going to be with us for very long, and we were determined that we were going to live her life until she died instead of having her die until she died. And there is a play on words there. She absolutely lived. We took her to the bank and the beach and the bookmobile, and she had an oxygen tank, and have all the equipment, will travel. And we did a lot, packed a lot in before she died at 50 days old. And Emmeline had taken what we kind of refer to as a black and white existence of just surviving for a couple of years into like high definition color. She brought so much more joy into our lives than just sadness. Emmeline was with us for, she died when she was 50 days old. And we ended up with a lot of support from our community as well as our church. That baby lacked for nothing. I mean, I had a playpen, and I had a crib, and I had a bouncy seat, and I had formula was brought, and a backpack thing. It was a front pack. And I mean, anything that child had more outfits to wear than she could possibly wear, because people might not be able to foster themselves, but they definitely want to help. And so being able to say she needs, preemie onesies, and I had them. That was great. We also adopted a 3-year-old baby that heart transplant kiddo, and again, the support that we have had is amazing. Nehemiah died in December from lung failure. I'm sorry. He spent 14 months of his life in a hospital crib. And we brought him home, and then after that, he had to go back to the hospital a lot of times. But it was just a visit. We didn't go back to stay. And because of our EMTs, ambulance, St. Nicholas Hospital up here, our pediatrician, the Children's Hospital, all of the support that we had there. We had all the bells and whistles as far as equipment went, and he was able to be home, which is a much better place for a child than to live at the hospital. And we didn't necessarily make a difference in the absolute outcome of his life. He did die at 3.5 years old, but he lived so much better and so much healthier and so loved. And we wouldn't trade it for the world. And you grieve deeply because you love deeply. And then we still have Charlie, who's 7.5, and then we have Cassidy, who's 2.5. And we brought her home, so she has severe brain damage because of a cord accident at birth. It was wrapped around her neck and she didn't get enough oxygen. And we brought her home in August of 2019, not anticipating she was going to live until Christmas. And here we are, 2.5 years later. And it's a very old-fashioned thing to say anymore, but she didn't get the memo that she wasn't going to live, and so she's doing really well. And after having walked Nehemiah through this hospice journey this past fall, I thought that's not the best fit for you right now. And so we are shifting gears, and she's going to get some glasses. And I called Just Kids Dental today, and she's going to go see the dentist. And all of those things are things you chase after if you're going to be here for a while. And so we're living like she's living, and Cassidy's doing quite well. But we're always cognizant of the fact that both Charlie and Cassidy have some pretty severe medical issues, and we don't know how long they'll be with us. But we don't live every day holding our breath until they die. Instead, we just live every day like, all right, what's up for today? And then we shift gears as needed. So it's been a very well-rounded experience. There has been great joy, and there's been great grief, and we have lived so large in the process of opening our hearts to loving a child not biologically our own, and we would never, ever, ever not want to have taken that path.